Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Del A.D. Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so thrilled to have Terri Broughton with me today. Terri is a painter, life coach, and trainer living in Norfolk with her husband Tony and their wire-haired fox terrier, Brillo. She's a loving wife, an adoring mother, and a proud sister. In adulthood, Terri and her sisters were reunited, becoming a tight-knit family. It has taken the best part of 50 years, following an extensive and impressive career in education, for Terri to begin to exercise those childhood demons and embrace the now. The power of her paintings is the result of the artful deployment of allegory, symbolism, and metaphor. Finally unleashing her talent and passion for painting, Terri is an emerging artist to watch. Hi, Terri. I am so thrilled to have you with me today. And I am also so envious. I have to start off with that. You paint like I want to paint.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, my goodness, they're just unbelievable. I'm so impressed. And but before we go into talking about your art, this is a show around the Three Principles, and I know that you're also a Three Principles coach. So my question to you would be, first of all, when did you first come across the principles? And then I'd love to hear how they've impacted not just your life personally, but also professionally, and most importantly, your artwork at this point. So there's a lot in there, though.
Yeah, well, it's a long story, really. I think it's about 5-6 years ago, I was working as a head teacher in a secondary school. And my remit when I got to the school was to support the change of a culture in an academy. And one person can't do that. And I didn't go in as a head teacher. I went in as something called the coaching director of teaching and learning. And then I became the vice principal, and then I ended up running the school. And so I already went in with an understanding of what coaching is from a very academic point of view. So lots and lots and lots of training, counselling training, art therapy training, going through my own therapy as a result of doing these other trainings. And so I went in with that in mind, and so immediately set up a coaching institution where all the staff were trained. We took all of the in-service training off of the timetable, and it all became about coaching. So you had senior leaders speaking to the cooks and the cleaners and the site staff and the admin staff. You know, it was non-hierarchical, so just to get people talking to each other.
Yeah.
And then the students became very involved in that. And after 6 or 7 years, there was a definite seed of change within the school. I think in the first year, they went from 18% A to C grade, which is not brilliant, to 46% in a year, which was a massive change. And then there was a change of mindset. So that was, that was when I was totally into coaching. And then when I left,
was that coaching through the understanding the principles, or just regular coaching?
Regular coaching. And so I wrote a book called The Perfect Teacher Coach. It had a model, and that was my understanding at that time. But I still felt, even having written the book, that something was missing. I still had that feeling, but I did something called the Institute of Leadership and Management, level 7. I was told it's the highest I could go at the time to get an accreditation in coaching, because I still felt something was missing. And I wrote down something like 167 hours worth of coaching practice. And still, I couldn't put my finger on this one thing. I didn't know what the one thing was. And so I left, and I was going to take a doctorate at the University of East Anglia, which is near where I live in Norfolk. And then I spoke to a friend of mine now called Johnny, who I'd seen something about the 3Ps understanding, 3 principles understanding, and it just resonated. But I didn't know if I could justify the money for the training, having already agreed to go on and do this doctorate. And the first weekend I turned up at the training, people were, I was very self-conscious. I'd just come out of working in an institution. I found that people were hugging each other, and it seemed, and I'm a hugger, but it seemed very hippie to me, for want of another word. And that, I'm all for that. But in that context at that time, I just thought it didn't seem very professional. And that's what I was used to.
Mm-hmm.
By the break time, I had burst into tears. I'd said, this is not the course for me. And one of the coaches who was supporting said, just stay with it, Terri. I was like this at exactly the same time last year. Just stay with it. And that really helped. And so I went back into the room again, and I was due to do a training on the Monday in a primary school. Now, I'm secondary trained, used to running with the toughest of kids. But I was going into a primary school, which I wasn't used to. And the nerves were getting the better of me. So when it came to coaching exercises, I was speaking about this. And my fellow coaches were talking about, or coaches at the time, were talking about ego. And I thought, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm really struggling here. I need help. But on that Monday, I went into the training room for me doing the coaching training of the primary school in Westminster in London. And I had my carefully prepared PowerPoint notes and handouts and strategies and models. And halfway through the training, before that, about a third of the way through the training, I just put everything down. It didn't make sense to me. And this little, I really listened to the wisdom in my head. Whereas before, once I think I would have ignored it. It's like, no, this is the way to do it, logically. Mm-hmm. And so I had a flip chart, and I started to draw a diamond on the flip chart. And I was talking about the children in their school, and when they come to them, and do they believe, is there any of the teachers in that room? Or I'd insisted that all staff were there. So again, it was site staff and the cooks and admin staff as well. Because I think to have a seed of change, it's really good if everyone hears the same message. Yeah. Anyway, I drew this diamond, and I was talking about the children, and they were saying, no, they're not broken. They're not broken. And I said, well, don't you think it's funny how we can behave as if they are? And we tell ourselves stories. I think that's how I started. Mm-hmm. And I was hearing my own voice, and I could see the staff nodding. And I didn't refer back to my PowerPoints and all my hours and hours of carefully planned things. I just spoke from my heart, and I spoke to the people that were in that room. And so on the train back to Norfolk, I was sat in a carriage on my own, and this little voice kicked in. Come on, Terri, do you really believe what you were saying to those people in that room? Do you really believe that? And I've always questioned myself. And the things that I do. And I thought, and I said to myself, cut me open like a stick of rock. It says that right the way through me. Of course I believe that. People aren't broken. I know we learn some things along the way, but fundamentally we're not. And then this little voice said to me, well, if you really believe that, is it true for you? And Del, I honestly, that had never occurred to me. Mm-hmm. And so for all of my years of, I didn't go into education until my mid-30s, but for all of my years of on a quest and driving for excellence and to find what made people do the things they do and how to support them, and even having my own counselling, which was a part of my own training, it was about, I just felt I was going back and I was telling a story, the same story over and over and over. But nobody said to me, you're not broken, don't you? and it hadn't occurred to me. And then when I came into sitting where I am now, there's a lot of greenery growing over walls in front of me. I just remember looking, and I didn't see green leaves. I saw all the nuances and the colours of those leaves. And I went outside and I could really smell the leaves. And I wanted to get to we're near a beach. I wanted to get to the beach and walk in the woods. And so it's a long answer to your question, but so about 5 or 6 years ago in a training room, something clicked. I even wrote to the trainer and said, I think I want my money back. This isn't the course for me. But I went on to do a trainer's training in this understanding, which is typical of me. But I haven't felt the need. I want to stay in the conversation and regularly do with people around the principles, but I haven't felt the need to go on training after training or to find. I just feel that when people know who they really are, it sets all sorts of things in motion for them. And so that's it, really. That's how I came across the understanding.
That's beautiful. And I know exactly what you mean about that. You know, I was a coach before I came across the understanding, and I knew how to help my clients while they were with me. And I knew I was sort of helping them feel better in the room. But sometimes I think, I don't know how to like really set them free. There was something missing. There was still something. I thought that I knew there was something missing. I knew there was something more that I could point to that would give them the freedom they were looking for, rather than me just sort of, sitting and reflecting and all the other sort of coaching tools that we've learned over the years. But I love that. Now, I know that you, well, first of all, you studied with like one of my favorite artists, and you were influenced by a couple of my other favorite artists that have influenced me too. I love Lucian Freud and Jenny Saville. So I know you coach, but I would love to, because your work is just breathtaking. I mean, it's just, like I said, I was always a figurative painter, and I love telling story through the human form. But there's something about your work that's just so compelling. So I would love to hear, were you painting that way before you came across the principles? Do you feel the principles helped you access that? I'd love to hear more about that.
The interesting thing is, I was saying I didn't go into education till my 30s. So before that, I grew up as a looked after child. So I lost my parents when I was very young, and I lived with lots of different people. And I have 2 sisters. One was living in a children's home. One ran away from where I was living. And so it was all lots of separation. And one lady that I lived with, I won a certificate for doing art. I was about 7. And I came home and I said, I look what I've got for doing a painting. And she pointedly sort of did this, and she said, you are not a painter. Your father was a painter. And it was more like an order than a statement. And it just stuck with me, Del. I mean, that was it. And so I didn't have anything to do with the arts, although I was always drawn to them. And then when I was about 31-ish, I went to, it took all the courage I had. I went to the local college and I started to do an A-level in ceramics, and I just felt I've come home, because I've always been fascinated by the arts. And then they persuaded me to do something at the time called a BTEC. I think they've just come out. And so I did that. I had a year out. And then I went to university. Well, I went to art college at a university, and I did a year there. But people were so kind to me. They kept saying, oh, we know someone who could buy that. And I thought, I want to learn. I don't want someone to offer to buy my work. I want someone to teach me how to be better. And so I then went to Loughborough College of Art and Design and did a ceramics degree in ceramics 3-dimensional design. And I came out with a first. I would have told you that was impossible even then. And then I trained to be an art therapist. and I worked as an art therapist for a while, so still drawn around the arts. And then I had to go to school and take a GCSE in maths. My son has Asperger's syndrome, and I've got this very high-flying daughter who's runs an arts faculty in Norwich, not far from here. But I felt that she was being treated one way at school, and my son was being treated a very different way due to no one knew what it was. Mm-hmm. And so I was a really bad mum in the teachers of my son's eyes, an amazing mum in the teachers of my daughter's eyes. And I thought, what's going on here? So I thought, I'm going to train to be a teacher. So I became an art teacher, but I did not paint. And if you sat me in front of something to paint and had a paintbrush in my hand, I would shake, I'd feel tearful, stressed out, all because of a comment from when I was 7 years old. I believed it was true.
It is unbelievable. I went to art school at 16, and I was told that I was good at copying life because I could just capture somebody's portrait immediately. I had always been like that since a child. And he said, yes, you know how to copy life, but you're not a creative artist. And I came out of art school, and I didn't pick up a paintbrush again until I think I was in my 40s.
Yes. Well, Deb, I'd love to see some of your work.
No, not after your work.
Oh, no, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will, okay. Back to you right now, though. But yeah, just that the innocence of a young child to just hear something and take it in like that, and then never question it and just carry that through life is just
it was it felt more like an order, and it was like, that is who you are, Terry. You're not a painter. But so when I left, I did all the training within the principles, and I love storytelling. I absolutely love it. And I remember speaking to a lady called Liz, a lovely lady, and I was saying to her, I want to be a storyteller. That's what I want to be. And then through our conversation, I said, well, I'd love to do it through paint, but I just couldn't see the possibility. And then Martin Kinnear, who lives in Norfolk, invited me to help out at the art school. And I literally washing brushes, cleaning palettes, emptying bins. And I loved it. I felt I'd come home, loved it. And he asked to see some of my work. And whilst I was teaching, I designed a project called the Identity Project, it's in the national curriculum now. It's for all students across England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. It's so, so powerful. And it gives adolescents initially the opportunity to look at how they see themselves, how they'd like to be seen, how they think other people see them, probably questions I was asking myself. So I was vicariously doing art through students, had loads of ideas, I could support them in that way, as long as I wasn't doing it. So I probably had an eye for it. And these kids all got really good grades. And they didn't just do the project, they wrote poetry, they kept journals, they wrote me letters. People who weren't doing A-levels at the time asked if they could join in. I was at school until 9:30 at night sometimes. It was a crazy, crazy time. And then I took it out to primary schools to see how younger children would respond to the same question. And then I took it out to old age pensioners to see how they would respond, and then everything in between, culminating in a massive project called The World Begins With Me. And then when I left, I met Martin, I was saying that, and then he looked at some of the students' work, and I said, I can't show you mine, I can show you what they do. And I did a couple of things at home, and I took those in, and he said, well, some of our students aren't at this level yet. Why don't you come on to the diploma? So I Googled lots of people who I knew were going on the course and looked at their artwork online, and it's like, there's no way. Anyway, eventually, long story short, I went on the course. So I was 61 at the time. I'm 62 now. I've been painting for a year and a half. And I just I think I'll paint until I drop. I don't see a time when I won't be painting.
But hang on, just let me get this right. You said when did you start the body of work that you have now?
well, not the body of work I have now. I started at art school when I was 61, so a year and a half ago. So I had to learn skills and techniques, which I just didn't know.
Oh my God, I'm blown away. I mean, my God.
But it's only with this understanding, Dal. It's only, I've had to put my ego to one side. I've come to realize, and as if I didn't know, but the penny hadn't dropped. We all have blind spots, and that was an absolute. So even with coaching with the principles understanding, I wouldn't even question whether it was in relation to my art or me doing art. It just wasn't even on the table. It's just I wasn't an artist. I wasn't a painter.
Well, it's so funny. As I'm listening to you. Number one, I mean, I'm already thinking, okay, I'm going to come and stay in the UK with her. She's going to teach me how to paint. So, so I think that's the next thing. You need to be doing classes for people that are still, trapped in some thinking around this. The reality is I haven't painted in about 7 years. More than that. Gosh, much more than that. Right when I divorced, I used to live in a big house, and I had my own studio, and I painted in oils, and you know how messy and smelly oils are. So when I moved to my smaller house, my whole thinking was, well, I don't really have the space, but there was something. I don't know what happened, but it's coming out in me right now that, like you were saying about the storytelling, I love stories. And there's something inside me that just wants to start painting again, besides just the writing and the coaching and things like that. So I love what you're pointing to, that the principles. So because I wouldn't have painted with the principles understanding.
No.
So I'm
not me initially.
Yeah, so I'm curious what's going to come out. But talk about some of your pieces. You just sent me one. I know it's unfinished, but my goodness, it was cut from the same cloth.
Would you like to come into the studio?
Oh yes, please take us.
If the link goes a bit, I'll come straight back. I'll take you. Okay. A lot of my stronger pieces are around bedroom. I mean, I'm running out of room to put things. Mm-hmm. So just before we go in there, I was. It's a mess in there, by the way. I was due to be having an exhibition just before COVID-19. In fact, that very week that we were locked in, it was that week, and so that was cancelled. But before that, I'd painted some images of children wearing gas masks. So that was banned from a local place that I was going to exhibit the work in, because it was seen as unfit for people of a nervous disposition. And the crazy thing is, one of those pieces that I produced recently, you'll see it in the studio. So it's like a chalk outline, and it's got a little girl inside with a gas mask holding a little baby doll. And a nurse friend of mine had COVID-19, and she was on death's door. And she didn't even have the strength to pick up her phone. But when she eventually did, she found this picture that I'd sent to her. And then she told me how this picture had supported her through her illness, and how she became all three parts of the image. That the chalk drawing, it was basically based on, I don't have a mother. So I did this chalk outline of a fictitious mother, like a child's drawing, with a child inside who was sort of surviving, holding her doll. She saw it as something greater than her, God, protecting her children.
Oh my goodness.
And I find it's this whole idea of separate realities, and what we bring to any conversation, even this conversation, or an image, or something that somebody has said from the past. We live in incredibly separate realities. And so one exhibition that was banned, somebody else picked up very gladly. This nurse and other people have their own stories to tell about the paintings, which fascinates me. And so it doesn't really matter what was it. I'll tell you about this particular painting that I'm working on now, but it almost doesn't matter what's in my head. For me, it's about what people bring to the painting and the stories they tell themselves about it.
Mhm.
And so it ends up, although initially it's all about me, because that's how I do it,
Mhm.
but it ends up being nothing to do with me. I've got three paintings ready to go to Italy this week.
Oh.
I've had a piece accepted for the Royal, well, no, it hasn't. It's been shortlisted for the Royal Academy. Just waiting to see if that's been accepted for the summer exhibition, which might be postponed.
Mhm.
Oh, there's so many. UNESCO just invited me to take part in something. There's a place called Jafo in Kyoto in Japan, which is the world's gone mad. It's just gone crazy, and I'm loving the journey. Absolutely loving it.
I'm so thrilled for you. Your work is remarkable. It's, as you say, I mean, you can create your own story from it. I love, what it meant to you, and in turn, what it meant to your nurse friend, and that there is room, to make your own interpretation and insert yourself into your work. I mean, it's so provocative and evocative and just beautiful, stunning.
I think as a result, Del, I'm going to do less consultancy and training because that's also a part of my role.
Mhm.
I'm going to continue with my one-to-one coaching, which I absolutely love, and that hand in hand with the painting is just, who'd have thought it's like the best job in the world.
I know. That's what I said when we first met. I was like, I'm envious because truly, when I used to paint in my studio, I keep saying I was this awful mother because I'd go in and I'd see something and I'd pick up a paintbrush and all of a sudden like 8 hours had gone by and I had just got lost in doing that.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I love the one-to-one coaching too. I love, working with my clients. Um, but I can just imagine that those two things coming together must be, like you said, just the ideal life.
yeah, yeah. Even before having left the headship, I knew I'd be doing training and consultancy, but and I knew I'd be doing coaching, but not this way.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that the painting would come along.
Mhm.
There's been some incredible moments, incredible, and reframing of situations has come about as a result of this understanding.
Yeah.
There is a song by Labi Sifri called "There's Something Inside So Strong."
Mhm.
And I saw Jack Pransky in Spain a couple of years ago and met a lady called Lisa Dannendale. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I don't know Lisa. No.
She does singing coaching.
Oh no, I did meet her. I met her at Viva last year.
She's a lovely lady. And we
Yes.
were in a room and my heart was thumping and I was thinking, oh, don't ask me to do anything. Please don't ask me to sing. I had all these beliefs about singing. And there is a song called "There's Something Inside So Strong" by Labi Sifri. Now, that had been my anthem growing up because I grew up with some very unusual people. Eventually, I was taken away, but so it was a pretty traumatic childhood. And so this song, "There's Something Inside So Strong," I know that I can make it though you're doing me wrong, became like a fight. It's like whatever you do to me, I'm going to be okay. And I would sing it loud. That's the one song I would sing out loud. And now when I hear that song, it's more like a love song. And it's like the only way I can describe it is it's like that little diamond inside me saying, you can do what you like, but I'll never let you down. I'm always going to be here for you. And instead of turning it out there on the world, it's a love song for me. And that was just doing a bit of training with her, coaching with her in a room that day. And I was singing the song. And she said, can you sing? And I said, no, I'll sing out of tune. This is so embarrassing. I cried. um, but people were so, people are in the main out to support you, and they're not there to get you.
Yeah. I've
Wonderful.
had a very, different but very unusual and quite traumatic childhood too. And I remember last year at Viva, there was a Finding Your Voice, I think it was called. So I said, "Oh, I'll come to this." And I walked through the door and I saw that it was singing, and I tried to sort of back out of there. At least it was like, nobody leaves. But I loved that too, and I got that too. I didn't sing, but I saw how wonderful and loving and supportive people are, and that
Yeah.
my trauma as a child, that the world was a scary place, was just a story that I'd carried through time, and I don't live in that world anymore, that world that I saw as a child. And
Paint those.
say that again, sorry.
People repaint those stories.
Yeah, exactly. So I love what you're doing, and I love what you're sharing, and I'm so excited for you, because it seems that the whole world is celebrating with you, and can't wait to see what comes next from you. Unfortunately, we're at our time today, but
Okay, never mind. Never mind. I'll put some pictures online. The one that I'm working on now will come a bit later, because I'd like to finish it if I can. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's massive.
yes, I know, I love painting big too. So
thank you. Well, keep in touch with me, because I'm sure there's much more we've got to talk about.
Yes, I think for sure. Okay, well, thank you so much, and it's been such a pleasure, and again, just so incredibly touched and impressed by your work. So
thank you. Bless you. Thank you very much. Well, I look forward to seeing yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Take care, Dal.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at deladjones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.